Hi, today we're going to be adding and subtracting fractions with positive and negative values. The first problem we're going to do is negative 2/9 plus negative 2 5/6. So your rules for adding integers are the same now that we're doing rational numbers. So I notice that I'm adding two numbers that are both negatives. So when I add them together, I should be getting a bigger negative. I could rewrite this problem using absolute values. So we know when we are adding these two numbers, we're going to get this bigger negative. So what we end up getting is the 2/9 plus the 2 5/6. So the operation I'm really using is going to be addition. When you're adding, you don't really have to worry too much about changing your mixed numbers back to improper fractions. Because if you want to, you could write this as 2/9 plus 2 plus 5/6. So my 2 wholes is still going to be my 2 wholes, but I need to add these two fractions, the 2/9 and the 5/6. And in order to add fractions, I remember I need a common denominator. Your least common denominator is the same as your least common multiple of your denominators. If you don't remember how to find least common multiple, please refer to the videos from last year. So the least common denominator from the 9 and the 6 was 18. Both the 9 and the 6 go into 18 by multiplying. An equivalent fraction of 2/9 is 4/18. An equivalent fraction of 5/6 is 15/18. So now I can just add my three values together. I get that 2, and then I'm adding to that 19/18. When you're adding the 4/18 to the 15/18, you add the numerators. The denominator stays the same. So this is kind of ugly because 19/18 is an improper fraction, and you can't have a mixed improper fraction. So I'm going to make my 19/18 1 1/18, and then I can just add. Here's the next problem. Negative 2 2/3 minus negative 1 7/9. So I'm going to start with my so easy. Remember that subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. So now I'm adding two numbers that have different signs. So you need to be more careful with this type of problem. And my recommendation to you, even though it's not the only way to do it, if you are adding two numbers that have different signs, that you do find the improper fraction value. I just think you're less likely to make mistakes if you do it that way when you're adding two numbers that have different signs. So my expression is the same as negative 8/3 plus 16/9. I'm still adding two numbers that have different signs, so I need to get a common denominator. Whenever you are adding or subtracting fractions, you need to get a common denominator. In this case, my least common denominator is 9. Now that I have a common denominator, it's pretty easy to tell that my negative 24/9 would have the larger absolute value. Since both of my fractions have ninths, the larger numerator, the numerator that's going to have the larger absolute value is going to give you the bigger fraction. So in this case, our negative 24/9 is my bigger absolute value, so I know my answer is going to be negative. I'm just going to do the absolute value of 24 minus the absolute value of 16. So the answer here is negative 8/9. We have to remember our rules for adding and subtracting fractions and our rules for adding and subtracting with positive and negative numbers.